Well, depending on the news source, people are getting wildly divergent views of whether any significant amount of vote fraud has occurred anywhere in the country. As Callie just said, the New York Times has found none. But over on Fox News, there's plenty.
If you've been watching Fox's primetime yackers all week, you might easily be led to believe the election was a farce.
We saw blatant election law violations in state after state.
The radical Dems are also working with the corporate-owned left-wing national media, doing their very best to nullify the votes of 71 million Trump voters.
Laura Ingraham went so far as to disguise a purported poll worker, claiming that Biden staffers were stuffing the ballot box.
It kind of was an odd, like, what are they doing?
And Sean Hannity brought on Trump's press secretary to wave around 230 affidavits of people alleging voter fraud in Michigan.
They are saying that there was a batch of ballots where 60% had the same signature.
But here are the facts. Those 230 affidavits are public, and no judge anywhere in the country has found them persuasive. Even Glenn Beck's The Blaze couldn't find much in them. The vast majority are minor complaints, such as Republican poll observers being pushed back. Not so, says Fox News reporter Eric Shawn.
That's not true. It's not true. It's just not true.
So once again, the burden of setting the record straight falls back on the adults at Fox, like Neil Cavuto.
When they are talking the fraud issue and they are talking, irregularities, illegalities, what are they specifically referring to?
The they Cavuto is referring to are his own colleagues.
Fox is in the middle of a giant tug-of-war right now.
And the viewers are losing.
So, Dan, this is apropos of what we were just talking about. If you're turning to Fox, you think you're getting all this real data. They're not telling us that the New York Times called every single, polling district in the United States. They're not telling you that. They're telling you there's hundreds and thousands of examples that 60 people say they saw ballots with the same signatures on it, which isn't true. But yet, if you're watching Fox Prime Time, that's what you think happened.
We're seeing a really interesting tug-of-war here between the opinion side of Fox and the news side of Fox. Normally, the news side exists only to provide a little bit of cover to management while they indulge in wild conspiracies in prime time. But because it's the election, the news side has been getting more prominence than they usually do. And so this dispute between the two sides is more prominent than ever. By the way, when I say a dispute between the two sides, I mean the dispute is between the reality of the news side people and the lies of the primetime people. President Trump is supposed to be very upset with Fox, and I'm kind of reminded of where we came in 4 years ago. It was widely believed that Trump would lose, and Trump himself was supposedly planning a media venture with the late Roger Ailes. And then Trump ended up winning, and that didn't happen. But with his constant criticism of Fox over the past week, I think he may be paving the way for yet another go at his own media venture.
I agree.
In the meantime, I really don't know what to do about it. I mean, how to even respond to this, because the people inside Fox, who are the news people who are trying to move forward to tell a story, are thwarted by their own people. So I don't know, if you're a regular Fox viewer, and many watch Fox all day long, what kind of schizophrenia are you involved in editorially? I mean, I don't even know what you do with that. I suppose you go with who you think is most popular. In that case, that would be Sean Hannity, because that show attracts quite a number of people. The only thing that can happen here is that people outside, as have been doing all this time, other journalists have to point out the fallacies and hope that at some point those people who only watch Fox may fall out of their bubble to look elsewhere. It's a conundrum for me. I don't even know what to do with that.
Well, let's remember that on election night, it was Fox that called Arizona first. I mean, the Fox News department and their decision desk was very early bought into team democracy here and not team conspiracy theory and crazy untruth. So to see that divide widen is really fascinating. And to go back to our earlier conversation, and Callie, your point about where the clear and present threat is, I mean, the bigger concern to me is not the mainstream media. It's the right-wing media apparatus that you find. Newsmax, which has emerged, which has got more ratings than it ever has before, still a drop in the bucket, or a small chunk of what Fox gets, but really commanding a bigger and bigger since the election proportion of the conservative, super right-wing Trump fan viewer base, and some of these other websites that some of which I never even heard of before this week, are peddling theories that are completely untethered from reality. So the farther that and the Fox opinion side gets from the Fox News side, the more fascinating it gets, and the more troublesome, I think, for Fox's future.
Maybe I'm giving Rupert Murdoch a little bit too much credit here in all this. I found it fascinating that on, I guess, Saturday when Fox News called Arizona long before everybody else. In fact, the rest of the news media didn't catch up with them until yesterday and today. But I think what we're seeing, Callie, you used the phrase the bubble that are in, and we all know about the filter bubbles that people do find themselves in, and we've certainly experienced that over the last several years here. I think what we may be seeing is Fox is changing its filters on the filter bubble because it recognizes that they are going to be going into a different situation, and maybe they have to adapt to a slightly different audience. So they're giving, as Dan said, their reality-based people a little bit more time, and perhaps diminishing, we'll see, if the fantasy-based people start to slide away. But, Rupert Murdoch is a survivor. He's been doing this for 50 years, and I'm not surprised to start to see he knows which way the wind is blowing, and he's going to adjust to it.
Too true.